I say this all the time, but today's episode, holy cow. We're talking Instagram takeovers. We're talking fundraising. We're talking everyday storytelling, including like the whys behind it. You guys, Deanna Luna is with an independent school, the Bright School in Tennessee. And she has a lot of experience with a bunch of different schools, and we break into it all. We've got Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We've got how often we're posting. She's going to talk about a term called reselling the sold, and really telling powerful stories to the people that have already decided to attend your school. We're also going to dive deep into some wins and losses for student Instagram takeovers. Yes, it can be done. We've got some great resources and some examples for you in this podcast episode. Holy cow, Deanna's awesome. And I want to tell you that you're awesome too. The week of Thanksgiving is here, 2023. I am thankful for the job that each and every one of you do on a day in, day out basis to celebrate your school. Your school is so blessed to have you. And sometimes it's a fun job and sometimes it's a challenging job. But I am telling you, you are a blessing. And I just want to pass on my appreciation and my thanks to really continuing to tell that story, because it makes a difference. It makes a difference to parents like me who can't be in the classrooms every day. It makes a difference to your community. It makes a difference to, extended family that doesn't live close by, but can stay connected to the school. It definitely makes a difference for your staff and your leadership team. It's got a ripple effect, and you're a big part of that. And so I just want to say thank you. So now, before we get on to all the good ideas you're going to get from Deanna, let's break into this week's K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip, let's talk Facebook glitches. I'm telling you, they are at an all-time high. And as much as you are frustrated, I always say it's job security, because not everybody can do what we do and keep up with the craziness. One of the big glitches that I've been getting lately, and others have as well, is my program on my desktop is telling me that files are too big, even though they're not. And so I can't add them, which is super frustrating. One workaround is actually loading those same images on your phone will actually work. So I know it's frustrating. I know it takes time, but try that. There are some other nasty glitches going on, and I actually wrote an entire blog over on my website, socialschoolforedu.com. I'm going to link it in the show notes, but the blog is called Frustrated with Facebook: Stay Ahead of Updates and Glitches with our Fall 2023 Guide. This also includes some references to, hey, your page is going to be shut down, so click this link, which are total scams. It's really a struggle, but we've kind of circled in a lot of the things that people are dealing with and tried to give you some avenues of how to properly deal with them, or maybe get around them, so that you can hopefully keep your sanity. So today's tip is just, hey, if you're having issues with the pictures, try it on your mobile device, and also check out our blog. Now let's get to this week's fantastic interview with Deanna Luna. Welcome to the podcast, Deanna. How are you?
I am well. Thank you, Andrea. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, representing Tennessee.
Yes.
Very excited to introduce you to my audience. We met a few weeks back, and I was diligently taking some notes from some of your advice. I'm like, I need to get her on my podcast. So why don't you share a little bit of your background and then your role as Director of Communications and Marketing at Bright School there in Tennessee?
Sure. Yes. So I've worked in independent schools for almost 20 years now. So I've been around a little while. This is my third independent school. I started my career working at an all-girls day school, grades 6 through 12. And I started working there not really knowing what I was going to do with my life. So I thought, I'll just do this until I figure it out. And I ended up working there for 12 years. And it was awesome, very formative experience in my career. I learned a ton. And after that, I went from an all girls environment to an all boys environment, um, morning and day, grades 6 through 12. And so that was also a great learning experience because boarding schools are completely different from a day school, as you probably know. And so that was a really good experience. I was there for about 7 years working in the communications and marketing department. And then I came here to Bright School in July of this year. And we are junior pre-K, which is age 3 up through 5th grade co-ed. So again, I'm in a completely different environment school wise, but it's been a wonderful opportunity for me. I am the communications department here at Bright. I'm a one woman show, so it's been a really fun learning experience so far.
Okay. Well, a lot of my listeners are one person departments or less, like their communications isn't even officially in their title. So that's great. Can you tell me, like, with those three different schools, what kind of size student population were you talking about? So starting with the girls' school, how big was that?
So that school is about 600 students.
Okay.
Like I said, grades 6 through 12. The boys' school was just under 1,000,
Okay.
and about, I would say, 350 of those were boarding
Okay.
in grades 9 through 12. And then here at Bright School, we have about 330 students.
Okay. That just helps from a perspective. And I'm sure you're going to share some insights into, the independent school model. I've got listeners that are independent, Christian, public schools, charter schools, all of that. But we're going to share some good stuff here. So, how does social media fit into your role now there at Bright School? You've got 330 students. You are all by yourself. So, how does social media work?
Well, so it's a huge part of the job.
Yeah.
Being a one woman shop here, I do everything. So I have responsibility for the website, for email marketing, for the magazine. I'm doing the yearbook, which is something I've never done before. And then, of course, admission marketing, any of that stuff. I do a little bit of graphic design. It's really not my strong suit, but I do have a freelancer that I work with. So I do all of those things in addition to social media. But social media is really, I spend a significant amount of time on it because a lot of the content that I'm gathering for social media can also be repurposed for other things like the magazine or yearbook or website or whatever. And so I feel like all of those things are very interrelated. So if there's something going on at school, like for example, this week we have a play. Our third graders are putting on a play. And so I will use the content from that one event in multiple places, but social media is always a piece of it. Um, so yeah, I would say, maybe 40% of what I do is
Okay.
somehow related to social media.
Okay. It's a really good point because I mean, as much as we love social media and it could consume all our time, we can't. We got to make it fit in, but it does relate to all of those things. We've got links in the show notes for you guys to check out the Instagram page. So you run Instagram, you run Facebook, and do you run one more?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Yes, so we've just started using LinkedIn more. The school really didn't have a huge social media presence before I got here. My predecessor in this job actually was also doing alumni relations. And so, you can imagine that's a huge responsibility. And so they actually split the jobs um, so that I can devote more time to things like that. Uh, so we do have Instagram. So I've been trying to post very regularly there, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. I think we had I don't know, 125 followers for our page when I got here. So I'm working on that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, and they look beautiful. How do you get most of those pictures? Are you taking most of those pictures, or do you get those from other staff members?
Well, it's both, of course.
Okay.
I mean, I I do love photography, and that was a significant portion of my job at the all boys school. I was sort of the day to day school photographer, and so that's one thing that I enjoy doing, and I certainly do it here, especially when we have a lot of very cute kids that are willing to pose for pictures. I like that a lot. So I do take most of the photos, especially for things that are going to be used for other things in addition to social media. So if I need something, for example, we did a little postcard for admissions, and so I took the photos for that, and of course, I use them for other things too. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, combination. So, that's great, and I just think you guys should definitely look at the stories that they're telling. And I get it. You went from 6th to 12th graders. Now you're at the other spectrum of 3K to 5, and it is easier to get those kids, sometimes to smile and pose for you, right?
Well, they're certainly willing. Sometimes I ask them to smile and they make a goofy face, which is
Yes.
fine. But teenagers sometimes they're not as willing, to pose for pictures, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I really like this term that you had shared with me in regards to, kind of how you use social media strategy of reselling the sold. So can you
Mhm.
tell me what that means, reselling the sold, and then how it impacts your storytelling?
So, what that means is that you're reselling to your parents and families who have already bought into your mission, and they're part of your school community. It's always good to remind people about why they chose you in the first place. You never want to take that for granted. And so, just to give you an example, I did an Instagram post towards the beginning of the year where I went into our art classroom, and our art teacher is wonderful. And the kids come in and they make this whole portfolio of art throughout the semester. And so she had some kindergartners in there, and they were working on a big folder that they could draw on and put their names on it. And they were going to be putting all their projects in this folder throughout the semester. And so, they're 5 year olds. The pictures are very cute, but I didn't want to just put those pictures on Instagram or Facebook and say, well, here's some 5 year olds drawing pictures. I used the opportunity to talk about why art is such an important part of our curriculum. Um, for example, one student is holding a crayon in his hand in the picture, and that is very important for developing fine motor skills. And so we need to say that. I think it's really important to tell parents. I mean, they know that art is a big part of our curriculum here, but it's really, I think, important to remind people and prospective parents too that this isn't just what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. And if you can do that in a post, in your picture and the caption, I think that's really important to show people, exactly, why you're doing what you do.
I'll link to that post in the show notes. I found it. It's really good. Um, get really cute pictures, but like you said, telling why. And I think, obviously you're in an independent school. So, there's maybe a different barrier to entry than maybe a public school, but now everybody's got school choice. I mean, everybody. And so
Right.
sometimes it's reminding them, but it's not like reminding them like, hey, did you know? You don't always have to say those types of things. It's just showing up continuously of reminding them all of the opportunities, all of the things the students are doing, and doing it in that consistent manner. That's not an overselling, but you're just telling those stories, right?
Right. And, I think it's important because especially in education now, you might see a student doing something in a classroom and you're wondering, why why are they spending time on this activity?
Mhm.
And just to give you an example, another example, I did a post. It was a reel of some of our first graders who were, the teacher had this cute idea where she would spray shaving cream on a table and they were writing sight words with their fingers. And then they could use their hand to wipe it away and then write another word. And, that's just a fun way for them to practice spelling sight words. That's, a little bit different than just giving them a piece of paper and a pen.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I love it. I just posted one for tomorrow morning on my page of flashlight reading, It's just something
mhm.
that breaks it up. It's a little bit different and all of a sudden like reading is really super cool. So, um I I love it. Okay, so you're one person shop and social media, I think, you kind of shared with me it's a struggle because it takes more time than you realize. Do you have any time-saving tips that keep you, going in regards to that daily posting?
Um, I think it's important to plan ahead.
Mhm.
Plan ahead as much as possible. We have an administrative meeting every Monday morning where the admin team gets together and we look at the calendar and we see what's coming up for the week, or the next 2 weeks. And so that's really important because um, it's good for me to know what's coming up on the calendar, and I can sort of plan ahead. And there are some posts that I can plan way ahead of time. For example, I was working on a Giving Tuesday post just this morning because that's a set date on the calendar every year. So I can go ahead and start thinking about what do I want to do for that day. So I do that as much as possible. Of course, things happen. You know, the post that I did about the first graders who were practicing their sight words, that happened because I got a text message from the principal who said, "Oh, you need to go to so and so's class." And so I jumped up and ran down the hall, and it was a spur of the moment kind of thing. And so, which is great. I think if you plan ahead enough, then that allows you to manage your time so that when you do get that text message about the thing that's happening right now, then that allows you more flexibility with being able to jump up and go when you have to go. So
Yeah. That's awesome advice. And it's not always easy, but we close our door, we try to shut off our notifications, all of
that's
that.
right.
So I think this was in your former school that you were working in. You have incorporated some student Instagram takeovers, and I am big on this. I think student storytelling, student voice is so big, especially when we don't have enough time. And this is another way to leverage your time. But you've had some wins and you've had some losses in regards to
Right.
just that whole process. And most people in your shoes, Deanna, are very nervous about giving kids the access. So can you first share, how your Instagram, like your takeover worked and maybe the way it worked well for you? Can you talk through that?
Sure. Yeah. I understand why people would be nervous about just giving a student the password. That's completely understandable. And so I can tell you what I've learned in that process. I had a student. I wanted to do this was an Instagram takeover that we were going to time to coincide with admission acceptance letters. So kids get their acceptance letter and then they have 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever it is to make their decision. And so we wanted to do the takeover within that time period to try to convince prospective students, hey, this is the place for you. And so I had asked a student if he would be interested in doing it, and he said yes. And this kid he's awesome, great kid, very smart, very popular. He was a student council president, very responsible. And so he seemed like a natural fit. to do a student takeover. And so we talked about it a little bit. I showed him a couple of examples. And then we set a date, and I told him, I'm going to text you that morning. You're going to get the password. And then I want you to post stories throughout the day. Show us what your day is like. And then at 10 p.m., because he was a boarding student, so I wanted him to capture dorm life. I said at 10 p.m., I'm going to change the password again, and you're going to get locked out, and then you're done for the day. Okay. And so he started posting stories, and he was posting boomerangs. It was a boomerang of him high-fiving his buddy in the dining hall. And then, he goes to math class and he's high-fiving his buddy there. And so it was 3 or 4 boomerangs that he posted in a row. And I thought, okay, we need a reset. So I had to go find him in between classes and say, okay, let's reset. I want you to think about yourself as a prospective student. What were the things that you wanted to know to help you make a decision? What were some things you wish you could have seen? Or what was some advice that you would give yourself now that you know what you know? I said, I need you to think in those terms, not just, hey, this is my school. These are my friends. This is my teacher, this kind of stuff. And so he got back on track, and it ended up being okay. And so because I had learned from that, the next time that I did it, I thought, I want to pick a student who may not be the most obvious choice to do a student takeover. Somebody like the student council president. And so I picked a student who I knew loved the school and loved to talk about the school. He was a good student ambassador. He could really articulate well why he chose the school. And so that was really what I was looking for. And so we talked about some goals for the day. I wrote it out in an email. Here's some bullet points of things. And I really spent a lot more time with him talking through what the goals of the takeover would be. And so, I gave him the password on the appointed day. And he nailed it. He did such a great job of showing little things, little moments about boarding school life. Like, he just happened to have breakfast with his advisor that morning. He went to Spanish class, and his Spanish teacher brought his guitar that day, and they were singing songs in Spanish. So he did a little video of that. We had a guest speaker during our assembly that day. So he went and found the guest speaker afterwards. He chased her down in the quad and did a little interview with her. And so he really did an excellent job all the way up till, that evening in the dorm, when he was just sitting in the dorm lobby having cookies and milk with his advisor. So it was perfect.
That's
So
awesome.
I guess the main thing I learned from that is that it's really important to think about your goals for the takeover. Make sure that you can articulate that, and really, when you meet with a student, just take the time to walk through it. And if you can find examples from other schools to show that student, I think that's really helpful too.
Yeah, definitely. Did they save that story on their Instagram page as a highlight, or don't you know?
I don't remember. I could look it up. It's
If
a Macaulay school. You can look it
Okay.
up and see.
Okay, we'll just do that for you listeners. If we have it, we're going to put it in the show notes. I also have an Instagram takeover guide blog that I had done that I'm just going to link as well, because hopefully this got your wheels turning as far as how you can make this work. My question for you, Deanna, is he did a great job. Did you end up using him in other capacities that year, or was it just that one?
Yes, I did. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, he was one of our scholarship recipients, which was great because, when it was time to do some fundraising for the scholarship program, he was perfect candidate for that because, like I said, he was very good at articulating why he chose the school. He was very mature in that way where he could really talk about it, and in terms of his gratitude and how it had changed his life and so forth. So it was really, he could tug at the heartstrings pretty well, so we definitely used him for other things.
He might be a future storyteller. Like this is a real
Yes.
job that he could get and would do well at, right?
Right.
Okay. So now transitioning just a little bit to raising money. So raising money is something actually every school must do. But social media isn't that easy. So can you tell the listeners what's worked in regards to social media campaigns you've tried when trying to raise funds?
Sure. I mean, we've done two sort of mini campaigns here at Bright since I've been here in July. The first one was for our annual fund, and the second was a student fundraiser. Where they go and they have the little catalog and they go and they sell the products, and the school gets a portion of those proceeds. So we had a goal as a school that we wanted to meet, and so for our annual fund, now I need to say that we didn't just do this on social media. We
Right.
also coupled it with an email campaign. But we used the same graphics and the same verbiage and all of that because we want to tie it all together. Um, but I decided I wanted to use Instagram to try to do this annual fund campaign. And the reason is because most of our Instagram followers are current parents. And so we have them right there as our audience. And so I thought this is perfect. And so we kicked it off with an email to parents from our annual fund chairs. And we did it, we ran the campaign for 2 weeks. And so we used several photos of students, because cute faces are always good. It's good to remind people about who they're supporting. And so I had several photos, and I also used Instagram stories a lot. And the reason I did stories rather than putting a lot of stuff in the Instagram feed is because I could put a live link in the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be able to tell people here is a very compelling reason to give to the annual fund, and you just tap here to give. I mean, you got to make it easy for people. I did not want to do the click on the link in our bio because that's just another step that they have to take, and I'm trying to make it easy for them.
Yeah.
So, and I did a similar thing with a student fundraiser as well, and in that case, I had graphics that would show how close we are to meeting our goal. We're 50% there, we're 75% there, and so forth.
And I think you smashed both goals. Is that right?
We did. We ended up, so our goal for the annual fund was parent participation percentage. And I think we ended up 92% of parents made a gift or a pledge, which is huge. And for our fundraiser, we had a goal of $50,000 in sales, and we ended up at 57,000. So it was great, really
Wow.
great.
So Deanna's sharing strategies that actually work, you guys. So I love that. And I'm so glad that we can add links now in our stories without having to have a certain number of
Yes.
followers. So that really is some magic, and you can customize what it says and all of that. So that is really great advice. And obviously we use social media for the everyday storytelling as well. Um, just quickly, because we've had a lot to talk about, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but getting enough content to share on social media is common. You've only been at your school now for several months. So like how do you work on building relationships to grow your content, and then how do people get pictures or videos to you?
Well, I tell you, I think building relationships with teachers is really important. It's been a priority for me since I got here. And so I think that for me, I've been reaching out to teachers, going into their classrooms. I don't want to be intrusive, but I do want to see. And I think, part of it for me is that I can always play the newbie card, right? Like I just got here, I'm learning and I want to see what's going on in class. And what I found is that there's a lot of times that teachers um, think, well, all we're doing is sitting on the rug reading. That's not a big deal. And I tell them it is a big deal. Parents want to see this. That's really important to them to see what's happening day to day. Those little moments really are important to show. I think it's important to show that just as much as the big events.
Mhm.
Just showing the little things behind the scenes. Parents love to see behind the scenes content. And so I think just being in the classroom and explaining to teachers, look, it doesn't have to be the most compelling photo ever. Parents are going to like it if their kid is in it. But that's just the main thing, is just being around and being visible and making sure that people know. You please invite me to your class. I want to come. I want to see what you guys are working on, even if you don't think that it's a big deal or it's that interesting. I guarantee you that other people will think it is interesting. And so I give out my cell phone number freely to faculty, especially if they are going off campus for a field trip or something like that. We had a group of kids that went to Nashville a couple of weeks ago. We had another group that went to a pumpkin farm. And so I was texting the teachers. I'm like, please, please, please take pictures. And they were awesome. They were awesome. The teachers really responded. And I think just reassuring them that their pictures are good enough. Sometimes they feel like, well, you don't want this picture. And I always say, yes, I do.
Mm.
I do want it. Whether I use it on social media or not, I still want it. Because there could, like I said, I'm doing all these other things, the magazine, the yearbook, and all of this. And so I can use those things in multiple ways. So yeah, like I give out my cell phone number to whoever wants it. I don't care. Just send me pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're listening and you're like, "Well, I'm not new." Well, you can be new to what they're learning in the classroom. So just
Oh, sure.
you really want to be connected. So, as we wrap up, you've shared a ton of tips with us, Deanna, but what would you say is your best social media tip?
Um, Gosh, if I had to say one thing, I think it's just consistency and posting regularly. Don't wait for the big thing to happen. You can do the day-to-day little stuff. It's fine. It works really well. So I think just consistently posting and then going back and looking to see what resonates with people. What do people like? What do they comment on or share? And just, take note of that and adjust your strategy accordingly. If people, like to see a certain thing, and then that's good to know. You can definitely do more of that type of stuff. So I think just trying to be consistent as much as possible, post as much as you can. That's the best thing to do.
So, when you say post consistently and regularly, what does that mean as far as like number of times per week or per day? What would you define that as?
Um, for me, I try to post once a day when we're in school.
Mhm.
That's not realistic for the weekends or for extended breaks and things like that. I don't, I'm not always able to do that, but I certainly try.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely. And I think if you post Instagram stories, that counts as a post. I mean, you've
Mhm.
posted something. So it doesn't always have to be photo album with 10 photos. It could be anything,
Right.
but just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. And are you posting as often over on LinkedIn, or are you just trying to post a couple times a week, or what, how does that platform work for you?
So LinkedIn, I don't post everything there. So if I
Okay.
can post, a couple of times a week, I consider that good. Our
Okay.
audience over there is very different than what it would be on Instagram. And so most of the LinkedIn stuff is more alumni based. And so if I have a story about a teacher doing professional development as a teacher that they know, or, we do an alumni lunch once a month. So I definitely, want to push that out there.
Hmm.
So that's the content there is slightly different. And so the frequency is a little different as well.
Okay. That's really helpful. Gosh, this has been great. I took so many notes and I know that our listeners got so much out of this. Deanna, if they have more questions or want to reach out with anything, what's the best way to stay connected to you?
I would say either LinkedIn. I'm listed as Deanna Taylor Luna on LinkedIn, or just good old fashioned email. Feel free to email me if you want to reach out.
Okay, and we'll include that email address in the show notes. Everybody can click over there and just please go out and check the stories that Deanna and her school are sharing there in Tennessee. I think you'll learn a lot in regards to a lot of that storytelling and some of the reasons why and all of that. I really look forward to continuing to learn from you, Deanna. So thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Andrea. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, we will see you back here next week with another great guest. Have an awesome Thanksgiving. Over the holiday break, you may post a little bit less, and that's okay. But we're going to finish the year. I can't believe I'm saying that, 2023, really
Right.
strong and pop into 2024. So we can't wait to see you next time. Bye bye.